Yeah. We want to welcome you to our City Commission regular meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and at midnight. We ask that you turn off or silence all cell phones. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. At this time, we'll have proclamations and awards. Thank everybody for coming out. We will have Miss Diane Smith come up. Poppies are worn and displayed as a symbolic tribute to our fallen and the future of living veterans and service members. At the end of World War I, the American Legion adopted the poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by troops in war times. And the use of the poppy symbolically comes from the poem In Flanders Field, which movingly begins, "In Flanders Field, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row and row," referring to the poppies that sprang up in the churned earth of battlefields across Belgium and France where soldiers died fighting. The American Legion family has long utilized the red poppy as its official flower, symbolizing the blood shed by those who have served in our U.S. military. And it's fitting that as the American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary approach their 100th anniversaries, they expand the meaning and symbolism of the poppy, mirroring the manner in which the poppy is symbolically showcased in England and Canada in celebratory fashion on the Remembrance Day, also known as Armistice Day and Poppy Day. Now therefore, I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim May 24th, 2019 as National Poppy Day. Gotta show the proclamation. Say a few words.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. For this is one of our first events for the American Legion Auxiliary Unit 94. Poppies are used to remember those who have given their lives in a battle. They were the flowers that grew in Belgium after all the soldiers had passed away. The poppies are made by our veterans locally and around the country. Our mission is to win the confidence of the public through knowledge of the purpose to which the American Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary expend the money derived from the poppies to help support our living veterans. We also assist our living veterans and their families from our poppy funds. Our poppy is an emblem of sacrifice. Our poppy is also represented by sleep, peace, and death. I'm Brenda Simmons Hood. I'm the auxiliary chaplain. To my left, I have President Diane Smith. Coming down is Deanna Howard, our vice president. Ms. Louise Charlton, our past district president, and also one of our members, executive board member, Roxanne Brown. Thank you.
Next, we would like to call up Mr. Rick Jackson. Sing this a solo, man? Okay. Historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. It is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. This Place Matters is a national campaign co-sponsored by the Leavenworth Preservation Commission, Preservation Alliance of Leavenworth, Leavenworth Main Street, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now therefore, I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim May 2019 to be Leavenworth Historic Preservation Month.
Commissioners, thank you very much. I have accompanying me today Mr. Ed Otto, the Vice President, and I'm going to ask him to say a few words.
Thank you. You're welcome. We take a lot of pride in the Preservation Commission, or Committee, in what we do and how we work with you. So it's a privilege to be here. I thank you very much for the proclamation. And we're here to support the city and historical buildings, and we're proud to do that. Thank you.
Thank you guys for serving.
Chief. There are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including 60 sworn members of the City of Leavenworth Police Department. The Congress of the United States of America has designated the calendar week each year during which May 15 occurs as National Police Week, and May 15th of each year to be Peace Officers Memorial Day. The names of those dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Currently, there are 21,910 names of fallen heroes engraved on the memorial, of which 158 officers who were killed in 2018. The members of the City of Leavenworth Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas. The citizens of Leavenworth are leaders pledged to stand with the families of the fallen officers, the officers protecting our community, and the officers throughout the United States, and to honor their loss as they protect their communities. All officers of Leavenworth Police Department are encouraged to turn on the red and blue lights for 1 minute every day at 11 a.m. from May 12th through May 18th. Now therefore, I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim May 12th through May 18, 2019 to be National Police Week.
Mr. Mayor, Commission, thank you very much for your continued support for the police department. I will remind you that tomorrow night at 5:30 at the Riverfront Community Center, we will have our annual Law Enforcement Awards Banquet, in which we will hand out a number of awards, including such things as life-saving and heroic acts that the police officers from Leavenworth have done this last year, and we'd be honored to have your presence. Thank you very much.
Mike McDonald. Public works services provided in the City of Leavenworth are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and the support of our understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as wastewater, streets, highway, public buildings, solid waste collection, recycling, and snow removal. The quality of effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works. I, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor of the City of Leavenworth, Kansas, hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2019 to be Leavenworth Public Works Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is Great honor to once again receive this proclamation on behalf of the hardworking men and women of the Public Works Department. We cannot do our jobs without the support of the commission and the citizens of our community. Mayor identified many of the things that we do. And then there's all the other things on there too that we do. There's floods, there's parades, there's potholes and some more potholes. And then let's go do some more snow. So it's been a very interesting and busy year for us, and we thank you for your support. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, old business, minutes from May 23rd, 2019. If there's no questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the May 23rd, 2019 regular business meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, new business, citizen participation. Anybody from the audience that would like to discuss anything that's unrelated to the agenda? We ask that you come up to the microphone and state your first and last name and address, please.
Good evening, my name is Scott Elliott. I live at 303 Arch Street, Leavenworth. And what I'm asking the City Commission to do is to revise the zoning regulations regarding beekeeping and apiaries. As I'm sure everybody is aware, there's a crisis going on right now, a global crisis of pollinators declining, monarch butterflies, all types of insects, and especially bees. We've seen as much as a 30 to 40% decrease in honeybees across the United States and actually globally. And I'm sure most of you are aware that if the bees die, we all die. So what can the city of Leavenworth do about it? Well, right now, under R125, I believe it is, you're allowed to have an apiary or a beehive on your property. However, in denser residential areas, specifically R1-6 lots, it's not permitted to have beehives. And so I'm asking the city of Leavenworth to do two things. First of all, change the permitting to allow homeowners to have a beehive on their property in R1-6 lots. The second thing I would like for the city of Leavenworth to do is to adopt the same urban beekeeping practices, best practices that the city of Leavenworth adopted. Some of the requirements under the city of city of Lawrence. What Lawrence has is urban beekeeping is allowed without restriction within the city limits of Lawrence. A beehive has to be 3 feet from another person's property line. If the beehive is within 10 feet, a flyaway barrier has to be at least 6 feet tall and 10 feet. That could be either bushes or a privacy fence. So it'd be 6 feet tall by 10 feet if you're within 10 feet of someone else's property line. Hives can be kept in backyards, side yards, and rooftops. Has to be at least 25 feet from a main building of a neighbor's lot, at least 10 feet from sidewalks, a maximum of 2 hives per quarter acre, must provide a water source, obviously no Africanized or killer bees as people talk about. And if the bees start engaging in defensive behaviors, that the beekeeper, bee owner would have to requeen the bees. These are standard new urban practices that we see have been adopted in Lawrence, Fort Collins, Colorado, and numerous other cities. Because if we have to do things on a local level to increase the habitat area for pollinators, and one thing the city of Leavenworth can do is allow homeowners to have their own private beehive. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you, sir. And we'll get with our staff and we'll ask that he provide us with some information and we'll do a follow-up with you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am?
To discuss the demolition of houses.
Okay, yes, that's coming up.
If it's coming up, I'll wait.
Yes, ma'am.
It's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, next item on the agenda, public hearings for unsafe and dangerous structures.
Our Community Development Director, Julie Hurley, will handle this item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. As you're aware,
We have a motion.
to
Oh, yeah.
open the public hearing, yeah.
I move
You're
that,
good.
I move that we open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion has been seconded, begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0.
Okay, so again, as you're aware, code enforcement staff annually compiles a list of structures that are assessed to be in a dangerous, an unsafe or blighting state on the surrounding neighborhood, and those conditions are laid out in state statute, which is what we follow. So this list of structures has been presented to the commission previously, earlier this year in February, I believe. And then we, in March, set the date for this public hearing. All property owners of the properties on this have been properly notified by certified and regular mail, and the properties have been posted with a physical posting on the actual structure. Property owners were requested to contact staff to discuss steps that would need to be taken to bring their properties into compliance. They were given the opportunity to sign what we call a remediation agreement, which is just a listing of specific items that would need to be completed to bring the property into compliance. So we have 20 properties on the list. I will go through these one by one. I know we've got some property owners here. I'm sure not all property owners are here, but we can start with the first one and you can have your discussions as we go. The first property is 905 Washington. This is a single-family house. This property last had water service in December of 2010. It does have taxes that are not paid as well. We have had no contact from this property owner, and there have been no changes to this property since we first sent out notification.
Do we have the property owner here?
Yes,
Please
sir.
come up to the podium, state your first and last name, please.
I'm Jeremy Bowen, and the taxes are paid now. I have the receipts. And all I want to do is, I want to tear it down on July 3rd, 4th, and 5th through that weekend. I work for King's Construction. I just drove from Independence, Kansas, where I'm working out of town. Traco operator, tore down houses before. I can get a machine there. I can get dumps or roll-offs. I can cap the city utilities. I do that in Lawrence whenever I do it. I'm sure it's probably pretty much the same as you do in Lawrence. You know, cap the sewer, cap the water line. That sound,
Yeah, we just have, any demolition would require demolition permit,
Yes, I
which.
need to get a
Yep,
permit.
yep, and so that would cover, the utility disconnects.
I was
which-
waiting
yeah.
because I didn't know if you guys were gonna demolish it and I wasn't gonna pay for all that stuff and then on top of it, have to pay you guys to demolish it when that's what I do for a living.
And when do you plan on doing it, you said?
I'd like to start it on July 3rd. That way, so I have the entire weekend. If I take the 3rd off and the 4th, and I'll get the 4th off and then take the 5th off vacation. It gives me time to get the structure down, crushed, thrown in roll-offs, and hauled away. It's not something that I want to take on weekends because
Yeah, I understand.
you need time. So,
So what, revisit it in 60 days?
What would you suggest?
Staff would suggest if you're gonna give extensions to any properties, that they all be given a consistent extension so that we can keep them batched together. So if you want to stick with a 60-day extension or a 90-day, and we can just kind of keep them in a 90-day group, and if they're done before that, great, and we'll just, present it to you
90 days.
when that would come
I
up.
suggest 90.
Okay, 90 days, consensus 90 days. That's good. 90 days.
all righty, thanks a lot.
Yes, sir,
Thank
thank
you,
you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, the next property is 1214 Potawatomi. As you may recall, this was previously on the demolition list in 2017, and the commission removed it because the owner at the time had a buyer for the property who stated that they could not complete the sale as long as it was on the demolition list, so it was removed. There has been no change and no improvements to the property since it was taken off by the commission.
Is that property owner here tonight for 1214 Potawatomi? If not, keep it on the list.
Okay, the next one is 1605 Terry. This one, Permits have been issued for siding, roofing, and upgrading the electrical service, and the property owner has begun working on it, so staff would recommend that this one be given an extension so that he can finish those improvements.
How long are you gonna need?
90 days.
I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So you plan on having everything completed
Yeah,
within the 90 days?
Yeah, I think so. We get some work days instead of rain days. It'd be pretty sweet.
I agree with you on that one, yes,
All
sir.
right. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you so much.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay. The next one is 514 Lynn. This one last had water service last July. Taxes are paid on this one, and there has been no change and no contact from the owner.
Yes, sir?
Marcus Bray with Private Properties. We own this property. We just finished the last rehab that we did here in Leavenworth about a month ago, and we've got all of our bids together, and we should have this house done in about 90 days.
Which company are you from?
Bray, B-R-A-Y,
What was the last property that you did?
217 North Broadway.
Have you been in contact with anybody about permits or anything yet?
No, not for permits yet. We just finally got our final estimates so that we can now request the work to be done from the city.
Were there permits for the last one?
Have you seen the remediation agreement?
Yes.
With the city?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one we had was, windows and doors needed to be, plywood needed to be removed and, any replaced that needed to, repaint, spray paint, peeling paint, and repaint, and then, replace or repair the guttering and soffits and eaves.
And our rehab is going to be more complete than that.
Yeah.
Full roof rehab, windows and doors, like we mentioned, external paint, inside paint, kitchen, bathrooms, everything.
Sounds good. The porch looks like it's on blocks.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so 90 days, 90 days?
90 days.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, the next one is 603 Reese. The owner has signed a remediation agreement on this one and has indicated his intent to repair. Last had water service in January of 2013. The items that need to be completed on this one are repair or replace the roof, repair or replace soffits and eaves, repair or replace guttering, and paint the exterior of the structure.
First and last name, sir?
My name is Clifford Conway. I'm representing Sheila Dowd. And I've been meaning to get on it, but the weather's been bad. And I hadn't been able to work like I normally do, to get the work done.
Are you the only one working on it?
Right now I am. I got
Okay.
some friends that's supposed to be helping me. Because if I could have 90 days, and if I can't do it by then, I'm gonna try.
Okay. Yes, sir. 90 days?
I'm fine with that.
Could I ask you a question or
Go
two?
ahead,
if you
yes,
don't mind? You signed the remediation agreement March 7th. Have you done anything in the last 2 months on it at all?
Not that you can really street from the street, but yeah, I moved a bunch of stuff out of the
Some
way.
inside stuff?
Yeah.
And you feel like you can make pretty substantial progress in 90 days? There's a lot of work on that one.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next one is 795 Spruce. This one, there's actually two structures on this property. It's the Victory Temple Family Worship Church, and then this is a separate, I'm assuming at one point was a single-family home. So this is just for that single-family home there. The owner did not sign a remediation agreement, but in talking with staff, he had stated that they intended to have repairs complete by this date. We checked this week and there's been no work done on it, and there's been no permits pulled.
So keep it on the list.
Keep it on the list.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, has the owner been in contact with you?
Not recently, not recently. He had talked with code enforcement staff earlier on when they first
Okay,
received their
good.
notification.
Okay.
But that's,
Keeping it on the list.
Yeah, we'll keep it on the this?
Any idea of how long it's been unoccupied, or do you?
Last had water service in 2009.
Okay.
I believe that the church may have been using it for storage of some sort. Okay, the next one is 1021 Second Street. The owner has indicated an intent to repair this one. They were issued a permit for roofing last summer, but the roof obviously has not been completed. There were a total of 3 police calls to this location in 2018, and the owner is here to speak about it.
I had a guy that was doing the roof. I purchased all the materials. When they went to deliver the materials, they couldn't set the materials on top of the roof. They had to put them on the ground, which meant that he was gonna have to carry them up a ladder 2 stories. And he basically stole most of my materials and left. He was letting 2 homeless people live there, and I called the police because I didn't know who they were. And they were supposedly painting something, I don't really know, but the police called me and I went up there, and I didn't know who the people were that were staying there.
This is your house, right?
Yes, but I had had a guy, Beach Construction out of Kansas City, Kansas, that was doing the work on the house. And so I really didn't, come up here on a regular basis like I probably should have. And like I say.
The house looks terrible. I mean, it's looked bad for a long time.
So how do you plan on getting it repaired now?
Sounds like a lawsuit with regard to your contractor, but still.
Well, what I intend to do, my mother ended up with lung cancer, so I've been taking care of my mother. So my time has been focused on her. We put her in a nursing home, so now she went to a nursing home last week. So I now have freed up a lot of time that I can get it taken care of. I should be able to get the roof done in 90 days. For sure. I don't know because I have to replace a lot of the cedar siding. I'm not certain I can get it all done in 90 days, but I will give it a good try.
At least the roof?
Yes,
At least
yes.
the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, in the gutter.
Something done on it anyway.
Yeah, the items that needed to be completed were the roof, repair, replace the soffits and eaves, and then remove any peeling paint and repaint. So I would suggest 90-day extension, and then we can revisit at that point and see what she's gotten accomplished.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is 1214 9th Avenue. The owner has indicated an intent to repair this one. Date of last water service was in December of 2016. There have been a total of 7 police calls to this location in 2018. They did not sign the remediation agreement, but the items needing to be completed are to repair or replace all exterior walls and siding, and then replace the front steps. And it looks like they may have been doing some work on a detached garage when our staff was out there earlier this week.
When
My
was-
name is Gabe.
When was the remediation agreement signed?
It was not signed.
Okay.
My name is Gabe Cotter. I just purchased this home from the previous owner on May 7th. And since May 7th, it has a brand new roof on it now. The front porch is there, a brand new porch was just built. They have started painting the exterior. All new windows will be put in within a week. New gutters, it'll all be done within a couple months.
Did you get building permits on all of those? Okay.
Yeah, there's a roofing permit right in the window now, but since I haven't got to the point, plumbing and stuff, but.
That's great.
Yeah. So you have planned on having everything completed?
Yeah, I just bought it, so.
Okay, yeah, so.
So 90 days, you
days.
think you have
Yeah.
it completed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hope you get some good weather, sir.
COTTER.
Okay. The next next one is 1708 South Fourth Street. The owner has indicated that he intends to demolish this one on his own, but we have not had a demolition permit pulled as of yet.
Be here.
It's
Is the owner
Gary
here?
Nelson.
1708 South Fourth
That's what I was
Street.
gonna say, does he still own it?
As far as we know, yeah. The county information reflects that the Nelsons still own this.
Okay.
How long will he have to demolish it on his own? I mean, how much time will we give him?
If you wanted, again, give them a 90-day extension and see if they take it down in that time frame, and if not, then
Yeah.
I guess I'm okay with that,
Take
but I'll
90
tell you
days to
what.
demolish it.
No.
Take 90
Right,
days to
yeah.
demolish it.
Yeah, but he hasn't pulled the permit. Yeah, so 90 days.
Is there,
Do we have consensus 90 days to
Wait a
revisit
minute.
it?
Yeah.
What is
no,
it?
I want to make sure we have a consensus on what we're doing.
I'm not for 90 days on this one.
Okay.
When did he last indicate that he was gonna?
I'm not sure the date that he spoke with staff, but he had spoken with code enforcement staff, so we could give 30 days.
Revisit it?
To
30 days is where I'd go, because this particular owner has them all over Leavenworth.
Yeah, I think on this one, we could set a date, so today's the 14th, and if it hasn't been pulled by June 14th,
Okay.
then we could just proceed with our
Yes.
Right.
demolition process.
So 30 days, consensus 30 days?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, the next one is 1916 Montezuma. The owner of this one had indicated that she had a potential buyer. We heard from her today or yesterday that her buyer backed out. She doesn't have anybody interested in purchasing it, and she was just gonna let the city go ahead with demolishing it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, do we have an idea how long that will take her to do that? I mean, how long does she have to do that?
No, she was gonna just let the city proceed with our
Oh, okay, I got
process,
it.
yeah, not that she was going to.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay, the next one is 2317 Third Avenue. This one, all the repairs have been completed. This is a before picture. This is how it currently looks. I believe this one had actually been purchased by the gentleman who was just up here, Mr. Cotter. And it's been flaked and sold
That's
to a
nice.
new owner, and so staff would recommend that this one come off the list.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Yes, sir.
Looks good.
So I need a letter today if possible for the owner that wants to buy it.
Yep, I can get that to you tomorrow if you want to come up to our office tomorrow morning. I can have something for you stating that it's been removed if that's what the commission does.
Okay, and then I had a hard time getting it because the first person that wanted to buy it backed out because I couldn't get a letter, and I even came in here and they said I had to wait
Right.
to the 14th. Is that gonna be the same issue on 9th Avenue? Am I gonna have to wait till a certain date to get a letter even though everything's been done?
What I would suggest is if you complete it, but the repairs before the 90 days are up, so if you get them done in the next 2 weeks or a month or whatnot, the city clerk could potentially schedule it for an earlier commission meeting to be reviewed and taken off the list, and then again, we can get you a letter the following day.
Okay, and I have one more question. So the demo list, these homeowners that are not here and it's gonna be demoed, are they charged a demo fee? Like, are they gonna?
Those fees are assessed against the taxes on the property.
Okay, because I'd like to purchase any of the homes there. Is there a way that we can somehow?
Well, the city doesn't own them, and so that would be a private transaction between between yourself and property
Need to
owners.
get with a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them we can't find certain information, so I didn't know if you had more information.
Well, if you look online, all of our minutes are there right now. All of this information is here, all the owners in there.
And
information.
where would I go online?
Yeah,
The City of Leavenworth site.
Yeah, all the ownership information we have comes from the county, and you can get on the county website and find any ownership information that we have. It's not gonna include phone numbers or anything like that, but mailing address.
What's the name of your
Yeah, I was
company
about to
again?
ask that.
Cotter Creation.
Cotter? Okay.
Is it local?
Good.
I live in Platte City, but yeah, I do kind of within about 20, 30 miles radius. I get a
Thank
lot.
you.
in
That's
Rock-
great.
Rock-
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you. Cotter Creations. Let's see, okay.
Okay, the next one is 305 North Second Street. This one had previously been on the demolition list a number of years ago and was removed by the commission. There's been no change to this date, and there is a for sale sign on the property. We did receive a letter this week from the property owner. It's owned by ABSL Ventures. They're based in Chicago, Naperville. Stated that they couldn't come to the meeting as they're out of town, but they intend to complete the repairs that the city has requested. So on this one, we would suggest giving a 90-day extension to give that time to be completed and then revisit.
Okay. Do we have a consensus?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is 326 Osage. There have been some permits issued for this one and some work has been done on it. It has had no water service since December of 2010. It is vacant. So this is before, this was back in February. And this picture is as of last week. So they still have some work to do with guttering and the eaves and some of the siding, but they have started doing some work on it. They've gotten that lattice work off the front and done some painting. So this one, since they are working, we'd suggest the 90-day extension and revisit it.
Does it still need a roof, Julie?
I don't believe they've done a roof. There hasn't been a permit pulled for the roof, and from what I can tell, that they haven't done anything with the roof yet.
So it still needs a roof?
Yes.
Is there anybody here?
Is the owner here for 326 Osage? No? Okay.
It's just, there are a lot of repairs to get done in 90 days.
Yeah.
though, right? So,
But it sure looks a lot better. The house,
Okay.
gone by.
So they're taking steps.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
90 days, yes, sir.
Roger that.
Next one is 400 North Fifth Street. This is a two-story building. There's been no change. The owner has indicated an intent to sell the property. There were a total of 5 police calls to this location in 2018, and it last had water service in March of 2012.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I called the police a couple times because there were some homeless people in there, so.
What's up?
I live in Alaska.
First and last name, sir?
Ramza.
Okay.
I live in Alaska, me and my wife. I never bought this property to make a quick buck on it, but, I mean, I agree, it looks bad. My father just died. I was down here taking care of him. Ended up helping a friend out with some taxes. He's about to lose his house today. So I ended up spending the money I had for this on buying the property over 505 Elm. So, I mean, if you give me a little time, I guarantee I can get some paint on it. They wanted new windows, which it's got new windows in it, vinyl windows. It's got new plumbing in it. Got a new furnace in it. I've got, the roof's only about 5 years old. 5 or 6 years old. I'm sure you can pull the permit up and look. I just need a little time. I mean, all of my money has went to my dad, you know, funeral and help my mom out and stuff. I run the construction department, or last year was running the construction department at Vornite Mine. I just need time and some money right now.
Yeah, what 90 days?
90 days, I'll guarantee I have a good improvement on it. I mean, I'll get all the paint done on it, get the soffit stuff done on it, and then the roof needs repaired right to the left of that against the wall. I mean,
That staircase needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Trust me, I know, I just, you know, with everything that's happened, I ended up spending that money, 25 grand to buy that house so he didn't lose it.
So is there a remediation agreement with the?
There is, it's not been signed, but we can certainly work with the owner about what needs to be done and, monitor over 90 days if you want to give that extension and revisit it.
Yeah, I'd just like to see significant progress made in those 90 days, because you indicated that everything might not be done, but I would say that the bulk of it needs to be done in the 90 days. But I'm for 90 days, but
yeah,
I think you got to you need to make significant progress, sir.
Right.
Are we in favor of 90?
Yes.
All right, thanks. And then, just going tomorrow and find out.
Yep, you can come in to our office upstairs, yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next property is 403 Olive. This is a single-family house. The property owner did sign the remediation agreement. There has been no substantial changes to date. Property has been posted as unfit for habitation since August of last year, which means that nobody is supposed to be living in the residence. The property owner and other individuals are still living in the residence. There's no electrical service, and there are some upgrades that are required before that service can be restored. The city did receive an authorization to abate from the court due to excessive junk back in October of last year, and that abatement took place on October 5th. There has been continuous junk since that time. There were a total of 32 police calls to this location in 2018. And there were 9 so far in 2019. As of Thursday, I know there's been at least 1 more police call since Thursday to this location.
Julie, do you know how much money the taxpayers of Leavenworth paid to remove the junk last year?
It was, I believe, about $2,000 to remove the junk last year. That has since reappeared.
So the taxpayers would probably, if it went back to court, the taxpayers would probably have to pay another $2,000 to clean up this property at least.
Yeah, there's been just junk present since we abated it. Our building inspection staff was out last fall trying to do an interior inspection, and they were unable to inspect properly due to the inside of the property being full of junk as well. So the walls and ceilings and outlets and things were not accessible by them. The junk that's outside of this property has started to creep onto the adjoining property to the east. You can see that in this picture. So there's just been, staff has had it cleaned up and it's just not gotten any better or stayed cleaned up since we've done it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, these pictures, some of these pictures are taken in,
Can you state your first and last name, please?
I'm sorry, my name's Gabriel Royale. I own the property at 403 Olive. And a lot of these pictures, it's a couple weeks ago, the front porch and both sides of the house are completely clear. The back of the house, that you can see there's piles of lumber that I'm using for the remodeling, reconstruction. The whole back garage has been taken out where it had burned. And there's a little stuff left in the garage that I'm getting rid of or moving into the house.
Are you living in it now?
No.
So it's vacant?
It's not livable, is it?
Right. I go there and work on it on a continuous because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
I think the police chief might want to speak to that.
Yeah, and I'm all in favor of helping people, but sir, I really believe that you're causing harm to the community with this house because drugs has been pushed through this house, stolen things have been brought through this house, and when I drive by this house, people aren't supposed to be living in it, but they're living inside of it, all on the porch, and there's been several complaints from the community as well as followed up by police calls, and I just think I'm not in favor of keeping it. I'm in support of demoing it. I don't want to take it off the list.
I feel the same way.
And Chief, would you like to come
We
and
want to
speak,
hear from
please?
the police chief.
Yeah, and there is a neighbor here that would like to speak as well.
Okay, good.
2 neighbors.
2 neighbors, okay.
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 3,
Okay.
City of Leavenworth. No.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I don't normally involve the police department in this discussion, but I feel compelled to do that tonight. This is a chronic problem for that neighborhood and for our department, and we've provided the information to Ms. Hurley regarding the number of calls. We've probably been there more times than are on that list for a various complaint. I literally got a call today at 3 o'clock from someone who lives in the neighborhood. I didn't have a chance to visit with her, I have the voicemail, but it's the same chronic complaints about finding drug needles and all kinds of stuff. I would implore you to leave this on the list and take action.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you. Any other neighbors that like to speak? Come on, man.
Come on up, man.
Mr. Roy, you can sit down for a minute and tell us your call back up.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
My name is Carla Thrush. I live at 406 Olive, and I live in one of those historic houses that you heard about earlier. It's not on the historic list, but as close as I can tell, it was built in 1875. That's from the abstract. And we love the house, we want to stay there, but our property value has diminished a lot. And I've got 2014, it was appraised at $75,200. Again in 2015, that amount. 2016, $75,200, land and building. 2017, it went down to $20,260. 2018, it was back up a little bit to $73,200. 2019, it came out, I got the appraisal document, was $77,900. I said, there is no way that this property gained $4,000 since last year. So I appealed it, and I went down prepared to appeal it. And I took pictures of the day before, I took pictures of 403, I took pictures of the apartment over there on the end that burned, and I really think that the guy knew that it was wrong. What the appraisal was wrong. We've got the dollar store in the area, which is foot traffic from everywhere, comes through there. They come through the alley, cut across to go to the trap house, is what the police officers call it, is a trap house. And the definition of that is like anywhere you can lay a mattress, that's a place to sleep. And they got people coming over there all the time. So I really would appreciate it if the city would come to our defense and leave that thing on the list and go for it, please.
Thank you.
We're getting desperate.
Thank you.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
My name is Patrick Swift. I own the property over at 405, right next door. We purchased this place in 2013 as an investment property. As soon as we got it, we started dumping money into it. Painters and a bunch of stuff off the front porch. We built the back porch, put a new roof on the garage that's detached. And then approximately a year after I started all of this work, we have the folks that are living over there at 403 now. I've had nothing but problems. I've got, a stack of tickets here, not tickets, but cards from the police officers that I've had to call over there and say, look, I've had at least 6 break-ins that I know of. I've had extension cords taken from my property over to there, and the only way that I could get the damn power turned back on was to kick the door in, because I turned the main breaker off in the house. And so, this was after they had a fire over there. So I come over, and there's an extension cord hanging out on the backside of my house. So I had to go back in there, and then I had to deal with that. I've had all kinds of stuff, kitchen faucets, wire, all kinds of stuff just ripped off and stolen out of that place. I can't be over there 24/7, and I just pretty much gave up on it. For the last 3 years, I haven't done anything more with it other than trying to keep the grass cut. And I don't even want to be over there because I've been confronted on people on that damn sidewalk. So anyway, I didn't mean to get so emotional about this, but it's a terrible thing. I retired from the military in 2001. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with, trying to make a living for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
I forgot some.
Quickly.
I don't know know that I told you what the appraisal came in after my appeal. It was at 77,900 is what the appraisal was. Post-appraisal, 59,700. That's a difference of 18,200. Is the city willing to give up that much tax money to keep those people there? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Go ahead, sir.
I don't see how, well, first off, I was given a certain amount of time to have the windows and doors and the paint and the things taken care of, and I've got 90% of that done. How is my house gonna stay on the demolition list like that? I'm sorry. I'm quite offended about the whole drug, this is a drug house. It's not a drug house. Nobody has ever been stopped at my house and caught with drugs, leaving, coming, anything. Except for one person who came and parked in front of my house, and he was sleeping there in his truck. He wasn't one of my friends or anything. And he parked in front of my house and was, when the officers pulled over, he was caught with some marijuana and stuff. But other than that, there's been nobody that has been caught at my house with any drugs. And I do take offense to this being said. There's not needles and stuff around my house. Well, where's all of this coming from? Where?
Did you have any children when you lived there?
Yes, I did.
Well,
I had children.
Explain to me.
And
how you
children.
could have, be quiet a second. Explain to me how you could have a house with all this junk.
This is, there's sawhorses there and lumber there, and
I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about a couple of days ago, because I drove by. And then when the city had to go in last time.
a couple of days ago was all this stuff that when I was living there, I would open my door up to homeless people who didn't have a place to stay. Some of them ended up being hoarders, and they would bring stuff in and bring stuff in. My house ended up just piled with stuff.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe you.
About what? About opening my door to homeless people?
We're done. Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.
Consensus to leave it on the list?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to appeal the decision. What do I need to do to appeal this?
Contact our city staff.
Okay.
Okay,
Can I say one more thing?
No.
No, sir. No, sir.
I didn't get an answer to the question.
No, sir. We're moving forward with the demolition.
the next one is 505 North 7th Street. This is a shed only. The owner has demolished it on his own. That's where the shed was, so that has been taken care of.
Oh, is the owner here today? Oh, you said it has been taken care of?
It's been taken
Okay,
down
okay.
and cleared, and the shed is no longer there.
Okay.
The next one is 787 Shawnee Street. This property has recently, within about the last month, been purchased by the owners of the Santa Fe Depot, which is adjoining to it. And they have indicated that they are either going to repair or demolish the house, depending on the severity of the repairs needed once they had a chance to get in and kind of assess that. And so I know that they have been in cleaning it out. I'm not sure if they've had a chance to assess yet, but they are, Don and Sherry Brown have purchased it and are intending to take care of that property.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Sherry, gone home. We have been in the home and we've pulled a 40-yard roll-off of materials out of the home, and it's going to take at least 2 more of those. We are trying to process the home carefully because in the year or 2 that it was in probate, There were folks coming and going from there. We have found some needles and things, and we're trying to process slowly and carefully. You all know that we manage homes and remodel homes and own the depot. So right at this point, I believe it is a salvageable home. Right now, the roof isn't leaking. It needs a new roof, but it's not leaking. From what I see, there's plenty of square footage to repair and replace. As soon as I get it empty, I'll know.
Okay. So 90 days?
90 days.
90 days?
For,
Well, we're just gonna revisit it in 90 days.
Revisit it,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Time to-
yeah, we're
No,
not knocking it
revisit
down.
it.
Yeah, not revisit it. We'll just revisit
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Thanks.
Good luck, sir.
Okay, the next property is 802 South 4th Street. This is the property right next door to the 403 Olive that we just discussed. There was a fire at this property in August of last year. The owner had indicated to staff that he intended to complete demolition on his own, but that has not occurred yet. Obviously, it's still up. There were a total of 10 police calls to this location in 2018.
30 days?
Do we have the owner here?
Oh, is the owner here?
No, I think it should stay on the list.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Stay on the list for 30 days.
Just stay.
It's been on, 2018 said 10, okay.
Did the owner indicate, when did he indicate that?
It's been a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So, but if you want to stay consistent with the other property you did on South 4th Street,
Correct.
give 30 days to see if they pull a demolition permit, and if not, we can move forward with our demolition process without bringing it back to you all.
30 days.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Next property is 219 Miami Street. This is a shed only. The property owner did sign a remediation agreement and has pulled some permits, and they have been out there doing some work. This picture is as of this afternoon, so they've replaced the roof. They're working on the siding right now, so there has been quite a bit of progress made on this shed.
Okay.
It looks like it could be removed then, couldn't it? Is it,
Yeah, is that your suggestion?
to remove it?
Let's give him 9.
No.
I would suggest giving a 90-day. I'm not saying that I don't think the owner is going to complete it, but we've had that in the past where someone has started, we've removed it, and then they've stopped repairs,
90
so.
days.
The owner's not here, is it?
I'm good with that.
No.
I think that's a good.
90 days.
90 days to revisit.
And then the final one is 1016 North 10th. This is a shed only, and the owner has demolished the shed. There's still a pile of debris there, but we can take care of that through regular code enforcement.
Okay.
And so I would suggest that this one come off as well.
Okay.
Consensus on that
Yeah,
one?
consensus to take it.
Yes.
We can deal with it though.
Yeah, we can deal with that through code enforcement
Yeah,
since
that was
there's
one of
nothing
the questions
to
about that.
demolish, yes.
He or she took the steps to demolish
Yes.
it, but didn't get all the
Yeah, just needs
residue and
to
debris,
clean it up.
so.
Okay, so we have consensus with that.
Okay.
All right, motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, consider resolution B 2220.
So that's the resolution that will put into place the actions that you guys just did.
Okay.
And I'll prepare that for for the mayor's signature tomorrow, and we'll get that published and go through that process. But I'll complete that resolution with the actions you guys agreed to.
So we need a
You
motion.
still want to
Yeah,
take
you
action
still
on it
need to-
though
yeah,
tonight, and you
and-
should
and
word it
it'll
as
just be as
approve
presented.
resolution
Yeah.
B220, with the time periods and such that have been approved by consensus tonight, something along those lines.
What he said.
So
moved.
can we so move it? I mean,
Yeah,
Mr. Franklin,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
that's the resolution.
Right.
Of course, and then she'll get a final document to you before, but yeah, you'll still want to approve the resolution.
Yeah, so do I have
And
a motion?
direct staff to prepare the final document.
I move that we pass resolution B 2220 as presented.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, review dangerous structure demolition list, 202 Potawatomi.
Director of Planning and Community Development will continue with this.
Yeah, thank you. This one was on the demolition list last year. It is a list of historic property. They've been going through some steps with the state. The property owner did apply for a grant through the State Historic Preservation Office to continue making some repairs. Those grants have not been awarded yet. Our intent in bringing it back tonight, we'd hoped that the grants would have been announced. They have not yet, so the owner does not have his plan laid out. The Preservation Commission does also need a chance to review this, so we're recommending that it be continued until the grants are announced and the Preservation Commission has a chance to review the status of the property, and then we will bring it back to this commission for final action.
You think 90 days would be sufficient for the?
I honestly couldn't tell you. We're just
Last time,
recommending that it be continued indefinitely at this point, since the Preservation Commission does have to review it as well.
So just wait for the approval.
Yeah, so we would just, continue indefinitely
Continue.
until the Preservation Commission has had a chance to review and move on this item.
We need a motion, right? I'll go ahead. I motion to continue this item, which is the unsafe and dangerous structure at 202 Potawatomi Street, for discussion until after state grant awardees have been announced and the Leavenworth Preservation Commission has reviewed the status of the project.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 4-0. Next item on the agenda, 10th Avenue Repair Project.
I'd like to invite up Doug Park and Frank Weatherford from Trans Systems. Mayor and Commission, I'll just briefly touch on this item and then turn it over to our Director of Public Works and the team from Trans Systems. The City Commission had directed staff not long ago that 10th Avenue needed attention and needed attention fast. So what the city did as quickly as we could is put together what's called an RFQ. An RFQ is a qualifications-based process, selection process, whereby we asked firms to tell us what was possible with 10th Avenue. Was there a way to repair 10th Avenue from Vilas to Michigan, or did it have to be reconstructed? If it was going to be repaired, what were your options? So what we're going to do tonight is present to you, or the Trans Systems team and our Public Works Director, is to tell you what was determined from that process and then seek direction from the commission. There is also a separate item tonight, a design contract. Because all three options, short to medium term, that are before the commission are relatively similar, we believe that should you select one of those, you can award the design contract tonight and we can move the process. I don't want to get ahead of it, but that's why there's two items on the agenda tonight. If you don't like where we go at the end of this, then the second item, the design contract, would simply not be voted on tonight. So I'm going to turn this over to the team and let them go through the project.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, as Paul Kramer stated, the design team from Trans Systems was a product of review of qualifications from several strong regional firms with experience in designing roads and repairing roadways. And we interviewed firms to discuss our project and their experience, and ultimately we found that their qualifications and experience were the ones that we felt most comfortable moving forward with. To that end, we expedited a series of processes to get us here to this evening, where we've done some soil testing, we've reviewed some of the historical perspective of the roadway, and I think you'll find their presentation quite interesting. I think they'll hit the rest of my questions or points throughout their presentation, but there may be opportunity to follow up. The project, interestingly enough, is not as new as most people would like to remember it. The original 10th Avenue project, essentially in front of the high school from Michigan to Vilas, was constructed in the late 1990s, so it's over 20-something years old. It just seems like yesterday I recall standing out there watching them pave it, and here we are looking what we need to do to move forward with it. I'll let Frank and Doug discuss their view of this. There is a report that they prepared for us based on their experience, and it's quite interesting reading.
This just happens to be one of my first projects I worked on as well, so.
Careful.
I guess up here I got kind of a strip map of the project. 10th Avenue, south ends on the left side, Viola Street, and extends all the way north to Michigan. As Mike said, this was constructed back in the mid-90s. Concrete pavement out there is about 24 years old. I understand the city's done some repairs on the joints in recent years. Haven't got a lot of life out of those.
That was 5 years. That was 2013. The city invested a lot of time and energy on repairing the joints and patching them with quality compound and then resurfacing it with the 5/8" layer of specialty asphalt. So that we've received, now if that was 5 years ago, we got 3 good years out of it anyway.
And now, I guess we're looking at trying to come up with a short-term solution in the last 5 to 6 years because there's a kind of a bigger need to get in there and do some full-depth pavement repair as well as curb replacement, sidewalk replacement, and bringing everything up to ADA standards. So that's a pretty big, costly project. I think the idea has been get this thing a short-term solution to kind of smooth the pavement out. Now, this will buy the city some time to get it on their CIP and.
But this, the short-term solution is like a 5 to 7 year solution we're talking about.
That's for it.
What would occur after that, a complete tear out?
Yes.
Then why do we want to do curbs?
Curbs have a fairly substantial level of deterioration in them. For the purpose of this project we're proposing this evening, staff believes that the key thing that is impacting people today is the roadway. And to address the roadway only is the proposals we brought this evening. There is a need to identify the bad sections of curbing and do some odds and ends of sidewalk and ADA ramp repair. That is not part of this project. This is essentially fix the pavement, stop the misery of driving down 10th Avenue.
That's what I'm after.
Yeah.
And
So-
there may be there's a reasonable expectation in our minds that you have effectively a complete remove and replace new project that is a multi-million-dollar project in our future somewhere within the next 10 years.
So if approved, how long would the construction take?
We believe that we can prepare the plans in about 3 weeks. Bidding would take about 3 weeks. Given this time of year, it would probably take 2 to 3 weeks for a contractor to be available and get started. And then construction could take anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. But certainly, this construction season.
Correct.
And finished, we believe sometime in mid to late October.
Doug and Frank, could you go through what the method is that you would recommend to the commission and why you recommended that and maybe where we've seen it before and how it's performed?
Sure. In terms of just go straight to options?
Yeah, let's look at those.
We might talk a little bit about the cause of the problem, and it's not a Leavenworth problem, it's a statewide regional problem.
Right. Some of the issues that this region's kind of seen with concrete, especially back in the mid-90s, is just really some poor aggregates in the concrete, weak aggregates. I think they absorb water, basically weaken the structure of the concrete itself, which leads to cracking. Another issue we have in the Midwest that's really hard on concrete is just the freeze-thaw cycles that we have throughout the wintertime. You know, concrete is designed with joints, which if they're not sealed properly, lets water in, and you get into the cold, winters around here, we get hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and every time it freezes and thaws, the freezing actually expands the concrete and pops it out, and that's why you get a lot of the problems at those joints. It's from the freeze thaw. Another issue with concrete that's seen occasionally is what they call ASR. This is basically a reaction between the alkali hydroxides in concrete and certain silicas in the concrete. Basically, the two react against each other and create this gel within the concrete. And with the introduction of water, the gel expands, which creates internal pressures, which pops out the concrete, creates the cracking. That's one item we're testing right now to see if that's going on out there. Don't have an answer just yet, but
Probably won't impact the decisions this evening, but it may drive the timeframe in other decisions on a major replacement.
Because we're referring to this project as like a rehabilitation project, right? Or is it? I mean, I thought-
It's really a short-term, medium-term solution of, there's 3 or 4 options that we've looked at that, depending on which way we go, should get us several years.
Right.
And it's not that the road dramatically just falls apart at the end of that time period. It will become increasing levels of maintenance, similar to what we've experienced up till 5 years ago when the city went in and did the repairs in 2013. And also, say, in the last 2 years, we've seen increasing potholes and other issues on 10th Avenue. You get back into that cycle of deteriorating pavement again when the proposed remedies we'll discuss here this evening kind of run their course. It's not that it's a light switch is flipped and it goes from okay to dismal. It's a process.
Right.
The longevity of these solutions is actually quite surprising. We're not the first ones with this problem. Particularly the state of Kansas has billions, if you will, invested in concrete pavement, and they are seeking ways to preserve it as well, and we're using that experience with these recommendations.
So we'll switch to a typical section. This is basically what's out there today. We've got 8 inches of concrete sitting on 4 inches of this bituminous treated base with curb and gutter on either side. Kind of one of our thoughts is why we're having problems with the joints out there is that we basically have created a bath where that water is being trapped in the pavement. We got the bituminous treated base on the bottom, we got the curbs on the side, and when the water seeps into the joints, it basically has nowhere to go, and it's basically running out to the sides, and then you're getting into the freeze-thaw cycles, and that's where you also have all your heavy traffic out toward the ends. That's kind of what we think is causing the majority of the problems out here.
If you look at the pavement, the middle, the left turn lane is substantially less deteriorated than the outer 2 lanes, which is for a variety of reasons. One is perhaps this water retention problem we see here, but certainly there's not near the traffic on it. So it's a combination of circumstances. We're proposing today would address the entire roadway. There is a way, I suppose, to just address the outer 2 edges, but I think that would not go over well.
Decracking is something else we looked at. We kind of had to go back to some historical street views photos to see if we could see any of it. We really didn't see a whole lot. So we think the foundation of this roadway is pretty stable. Not really an issue, but in some cases with the Nova chip overlay, it's kind of hard to see all the old cracks. So it's kind of covering them up. So as we were digging into the various options to consider, we did collaborate with quite a few of the industry experts. We reached out to a local construction company, reached out to one of our senior inspectors who's worked with many projects, putting in pavement. Did a little research on our own. We've got the geotech on board, looking at the pavement. We also reached out to a buddy of mine over at KDOT that runs the pavement design section, and he basically oversees all of KDOT's pavement designs and pavement, basically everything going on throughout the state. So he really provided a lot of insight on things they've been playing around with and kind of what's working and what's not. And that's kind of what we fabricated a lot of our options based on. And we can just go straight to options here. Option 1 that we considered. This is basically a 1.5 inch mill and overlay using a pavement fabric, which you basically mill the roadway off, lay the fabric down, put your emulsified asphalt binder down, which helps stick the asphalt to the concrete, and basically overlay it with the asphalt. Kind of the pros and cons of this option. The pros, it is one of the cheapest options because it's just 1.5 inch mill and overlay.
In the long run, it's not. right?
Right.
Lifespan.
Because it's a shorter lifespan, so in the long run.
Right, the cons of it has a pretty short lifespan, and based on our discussion with KDOT, they haven't had much luck with these thinner overlays, because you just don't have enough mass sitting on top of the concrete, and the weight of the traffic will actually push and shove the asphalt around, and ultimately it pops off, so.
And you're not sure you're getting the full depth of the deterioration at 1.5 inches.
Right.
So, and another issue with this, you put that paving mat down, and then the day you have to go out there and mill off that asphalt, the contractor who's doing the milling's not gonna be real happy, because that stuff really, I think, messes up the milling operation, kind of.
Like grinding up a sheet constantly.
Yeah, it really clogs up their milling machines, and I think it eats away on the grinding teeth as well, so. So you'd end up paying a little bit more to do any future repairs on this. So, option 2 that we looked at is it's basically the same mill and overlay, with the exception that we bumped it up to 3 inches. 3 inches, I think, is what we're thinking the maximum we can do, because there is basically steel and dowels in the existing pavement, and that's about how far you can go down before you get into them. There's a possibility we might get out there on a 3-inch mill and find out, well, we gotta thin it up to 2.5. But it should be pretty close to what we can get by with. So, pros on this, you do get a little more life out of this. We're estimating 3 to 6 years. Cons are, it is the higher price of the 3, and you also have to deal with the pavement fabric in the future.
And the pavement fabric is, what it is to do for you is to try to prevent the reflective cracking. The concrete has the joints in it, and in this option, the asphalt is just placed uniformly over that. And so the fabric acts as a reinforcing agent to try and keep those joints from reflecting and cracking the asphalt right through it. Okay, so that's why you put the fabric mat in. The third option does kind of the same thing, but in a different way, in a different engineering philosophy of how to handle the concrete joints.
Right. So this typical section is still a 3-inch mill, 3-inch overlay. But in lieu of doing the pavement fabric, we basically overlay the project, and then you saw cut the asphalt at the same location where the existing joints lie on the concrete pavement. This allows the pavement to flex basically with the concrete that sits underneath it. And those joints after sawed are sealed, so it basically keeps the water out. And
this option is less expensive than option 2?
Yes.
And why is that? I mean,
The fabric.
Yeah, pretty much the fabric's, pretty pricey. So, and this is the one, and talking with KDOT, they've got 2 projects they've used this on in recent years. Both of them are along I-70. One of them's out by Turner Diagonal. The other one's out west of Topeka. They've got about 6 years of life out of them so far, and the pavement's still functioning well, so they're pretty excited about it. So it does have a proven history of working. Yeah. So.
I drove that section the other day. I've driven it before, but never paid any attention. So just glad when the contractor's out of my way so I could get on my business. But I drove it with a little different look this time, and it did not strike me as a repair that was 6 years old. It was better than most of the rest of the I-70 it seemed. So it was pretty impressive. If you're out there, it's 2 miles east and west of the Turner Diagonal intersections, like milepost 414 to 418. It transitions from concrete to this repair for a 4-mile stretch on both sides of the freeway. It's what convinced me that this was worth bringing to the commission.
I think your exact words were awesome.
Yeah, that.
yeah, cool.
So option 3 is our preferred option that we would recommend. primarily based on the proven track record and the lifespan, we're estimating at 5 to 7 years.
Well, I'm in favor of option 3 as well.
I like the idea of it being able to move. It's kind of like if you put tiles down or whatever, then they're able to, as things adjust, they're able to move up and down without breaking the whole street apart. Is that what, am I getting that right or not?
Option 2 kind of relies on that fabric creating a bridging mechanism so that the crack does not come up through the asphalt. And we know that it will work for 2 to 3 years to do that, but eventually the crack does come through because of the forces work their way through it and cause the crack. Option 3 uses a different philosophy and more or less builds a hinge into the asphalt. And so that hinge then flexes as the forces from the concrete come up through that joint, but you seal it so you don't get the water penetration like an unsealed joint. So it just hinges a little bit with the flexy material that seals out the water.
Well, to me, that was the most practical.
Yes.
For our
Would there
purpose.
be any advantage to adding an additional inch, making it a 4-inch overlay? Would that reduce your loads?
You're kind of constricted by having the curb and gutter section. I mean, to get 4 inches, you have to mill 4 inches, and I think we'd be into the steel in the pavement.
We can look at if it makes sense to taper it, but if you end up with your center, well, most likely loaded section.
Yeah, in the traffic, or the traffic area.
Yeah, and so it's hard, so you could probably get 4 inches, but you're putting all your money where your traffic is not. And to mill 4 inches, we're pretty sure we're gonna start getting into the joints. Every one of those joints in the pavement panels are steel reinforcing bar fingers that go through there, and they're down like 4 or 4.5 inches. So we don't wanna compromise those because they keep the panels from moving separately dramatically. If we find that we can get more, we can certainly explore that with the city manager on. We would need to come back to the commission with that as an option.
If you would check into that, I would appreciate it.
And the other issue you get into, if you're raising up the center of the road, any utilities you have out there, manholes or valves, all that stuff would have to be adjusted if you modify that roadway surface. So something to consider.
There's no other questions or comments?
A couple comments.
You do?
Yeah, one thing you cannot avoid if you want it done this year is interruptions of traffic of the high school. So that will be something that we would work closely with the design team on, closely with the contractors. But, I mean, you couldn't have scripted this worse if you were going to do it this year as far as trying to get it done fast. You're probably looking at an August start. Probably right around the school. So the good thing, as the gentleman pointed out earlier, is that you're not going down to dirt, you're going down to concrete. So if there is a delay, if there's a water delay, you're not on mud, you're still on milled pavement. But we'll work with the school district, we'll work with the engineers, we'll work with the contractors to minimize disruptions as much as we can. But there's no way to completely do this before school starts at any way. The other thing is, just for planning and just for transparency, probably in 5 years or so, we'll start an RFQ process and start getting the plans ready for reconstruction. I'm hoping to get 10 years out of it, close your ears, Trans Systems and Public Works. But we'll plan that, but we'll be able to plan it. We looked at a complete reconstruction, and I think the numbers were closer to $4 to $6 million dollars, which we have to plan out. So this funding is available through the bond savings that we're going to realize from the Thornton Street project. It's still well below what's remaining. We had about 1.6 million roughly. In case for anybody who's not or listening and not seeing this, the engineer's estimate on this is $903,220. So that's an estimate. We'll have to they still have to design the thing, so it could change a little bit, but we're hoping to come in much closer to that. So those are the only comments I have.
Okay. Well, if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we move ahead with option 3 consider these design recommendations for the 10th Avenue project.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0.
And then we'll need the vote on the design contract.
Okay.
We'll move forward with that.
Motion to consider the design.
On the design, anything else on the design in terms of just a quick overview?
That's what option 3, correct?
Right.
Yeah, that's what he.
So that's what the design will be.
Yes, the design contract is based on selection of option 3, although the other options are similar enough in complexity that the value of the engineering contract really doesn't change much.
And you're able to get the design done in a, how long period? I think 3 weeks. 3 weeks, okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good, all right.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we award the 10th Avenue design contract to Trans Systems in an amount not to exceed $54,550.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, resolutions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good explanation.
B2221, Community Development Block Grant, 2019 and 2020 Annual Action Plan.
We have Mary Dwyer. Come on up. Mary, you can sit at the table if you'd like. You don't have to stand for the whole thing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commission. Nice to see everyone. I'm here as part of the Community Development Block Grant process. Each year, we have to design an annual action plan. So I'm here to present the 2019-20 Annual Action Plan. We have received our award letter from the federal government, and our award this year was a little less than last year, but not too terribly much, 5%. So it's $319,799. Plus, they always ask us to estimate what we think we're going to have left over at the end of the year and make a plan encompassing both amounts of money. I've worked with the Community Development Advisory Board to design the program for this year. It follows very similarly to last year in that it emphasizes primarily working with home repairs, home ownership, demolition of dangerous structures, which we just heard about today, and then also funding some of the public service agencies in town. We are limited on how much money we can use for public service agencies to a 15% cap, and we're also limited on how much money we can use for admin, and that's a 20% cap. So with those in mind, we came up with the plan that we're currently presenting. The board voted yesterday to submit it forward to you for approval. If you vote to approve that, then we'll do the resolution and forward it to HUD for their approval.
Mary, would you mind going through the synopsis?
I'd love to. So the synopsis of the funding that we've budgeted is administration, $63,959. That funds one full-time position, clerical and admin support, and operating expenses. Public service agencies, again, it's capped at the 15% cap, so that's $47,969. The board did determine who they were going to award this year because they had so many competing agencies. They decided that their emphasis would be primarily on those areas that would help those who were low income. So agencies that provide food, shelter, healthcare were their top 3 areas. Catholic Charities was awarded $3,870. CASA, the court-appointed special advocates, was awarded $11,975. The Leavenworth Mission was awarded $6,955. St. Vincent's Clinic was awarded $8,865. Welcome Central, which is the group that does landlord-tenant negotiations for the city, or dispute resolution, they were awarded $4,636. The Guidance Center was awarded $3,943, and the Alliance Against Family Violence was awarded $7,725. We set aside for home repair $166,222. That being the primary thrust of our program at this point. First-time homebuyer program, $86,530. And then neighborhood stabilization, which at this point is primarily the removal of dangerous structures. We budgeted $50,630.
Quick question.
Yes.
How many people use the home repair program and also the first-time home buyers program?
Okay, so for this year, I can just kind of give you this year's statistics. The home repair program, we've accomplished 17 houses to date, and we have 8 in process. So we'll be right at the target that we shoot for, which is 25. And then the home repair, the home ownership program, we have 3 complete and 2 in process. That is down from last year. Last year we did 10. This year we've just done 5 so far. Maybe things will pick up a little bit, but the market seems a little short right now. So the money that we have there that we haven't spent, we reallocate in the following year to the same line area. So, and then demolition of dangerous structures, we took down, with CDBG funds, we took down 4 structures last year, which was less than we usually do, but they were bigger, nastier structures, so that's what we did.
The 100,000 that we're going to probably carry over from the 2000, you think you're projecting that we can carry over from the 2018, 2019. Is that in the vicinity of what the carryover has been in previous years? It seems like a lot of money.
It does seem like a lot of carryover. It's 2 things. The first thing it is, if we get funds back from a demolition, the federal government requires that we wire the money back to the federal government, and then they redeposit it into our account. So it's kind of a long way to get the money back, but that's what they do. And the reason they do that is because they don't want you making money off of demolitions, which makes sense. So 50,000, a little over 50,000 of the 100,000 is that money. Because last year, for some weird reason, we got quite a few people who paid us back for the demolitions. So that's 50,000 of it, and then the other 50,000 is those homeownership funds that we set aside that we probably didn't use, or aren't going to use.
And can we make a push maybe in the next 2 months? Because the current plan that we're under, 2018-19, goes to the end of June.
Yeah.
So
I've sent notes out to real estate agents and to lenders in the area, letting them know that we still have funds available, because I think sometimes they forget. And I do that a couple of times a year to let them know. And then with the home repair program, I'm always pushing that, because I really think that there's a lot of people in town who could use the help, and we just need to get the word to them.
yeah, I think I've seen, I can't say I've seen recently, but I think I've seen in the last year, almost year and a half, some some posts with some social media?
Absolutely.
Can we continue to do that or
We put it in
emphasize
the
that?
newsletter every year. Mary speaks to the realtor group. She speaks to some different groups about it too.
Yeah, you attend different events as well too.
What about,
Yeah.
yeah, because Melissa puts out a lot of great things on Twitter and Facebook, so, and I haven't seen anything recently, but maybe I've just missed it, but maybe we could do
We'd
that
be
too.
glad to retweet
Right.
it, absolutely,
So,
because I don't think we can ever get the word out too
Right.
much.
thank you.
I'd be happy if we
Right, I
actually
know
ran
you
out of money.
Yeah.
If we-
Yeah, but I didn't know,
As long as they give us more.
Right, but that 50,000 you were talking about, that is interesting. That's not something I knew before I asked you, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that insight.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions or comments? At this time, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution B 2221, the Community Development Block Grant 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary.
Resolution B 2222, amending Resolution B 2217.
Our city clerk, Carla Williamson, will handle this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, this is a resolution to amend Resolution B 2217 that was adopted earlier in the year by the commission in February. That resolution gave notice of the governing body's intent to issue bonds to finance improvements for Thornton Street and the 10th Avenue projects. And that was in the amount of $5,650,800. And that included the cost of land acquisition, easements, utility relocations, design, engineering costs, legal costs, and the cost of issuing the bonds. We were notified by our financial advisors a couple weeks ago that the project costs needed to be increased to $6,400,000 to include additional costs for capitalized interest to cover that period of time when we were financing the projects before it goes to permanent financing. So this resolution just amends that first one that was done in February just to increase that maximum amount that can be issued of those bonds.
Questions or comments? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution number B-2222.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, Resolution B-2223, authorizing the sale of bond series 2019-A and temporary note series A 2019.
City clerk will continue with this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, this resolution authorizes the public sale of the bonds that we'll be doing next month. So we're going to do two things. We're going to be selling General Obligation Series 2019 A bonds, and those will be in the approximate amount of $1,400,000. And these are redeeming a portion of the notes that we issued last year to do some of the projects. So we'll be taking those to permanent financing and issuing those bonds. The second thing is a temporary note, Series A 2019, and those are going to be to issue the notes for the temporary financing this year of the projects, and that's going to be in the amount of $7,430,000. Both of those are going to be sold on Tuesday, June 11th at 10 a.m., and the results of those will be brought to the City Commission that evening for your approval of the winning bidders of those bonds, the sale of those bonds.
Any questions or comments?
I would just ask that, could you give us like 30 seconds in terms of the bonds and the temporary notes, just in terms of how they work together?
Carla.
Carla?
So, okay.
I mean, we have a lesser amount for the bond, right?
We have the lesser amount for the bond, because what we're doing is last year, we issued temporary notes to do some projects.
Okay.
So that was just temporary financing until we got basically the total amount of those projects, and now we know the amount that we need to go to permanent financing for.
Which is the bond?
Yeah, so kind of like if you're building at home, you go get kind of a building, that's how, kind of a good correlation. You get that, once your house is built, then you go get your permanent financing to pay your mortgage.
Okay.
That's kind of the
What we're
same
doing.
rationale here.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing with the temporary notes that we're selling the bonds for in the amount of approximately $1.4 million. And then the temporary notes that we're doing is to pay for these projects, temporarily finance the pavement management for this year.
Sure.
The 10th Avenue project and Thornton Street.
Good. Okay.
So that's
Thank
the
you.
total that's going to take care of
Thank
those.
you.
And then next year, we'll do some permanent financing of those when the
Right.
projects
Got
are
it.
done. Does that
Thank you.
does that
Appreciate
answer
it.
the
Yep.
question? Okay.
All right, at this time, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution B 2223, authorizing and providing for the public sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2019A, and temporary notes, Series 2019A.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, bids, contracts, and agreements. Consider bids for Riverfront Community Center fire alarm upgrade.
Our Steve Grant, our Parks and Recreation Director, will handle this item.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is the bid for upgrading the fire alarm at the community center. It is the original fire alarm that was put in after the reconstruction of the community center. Over time, staff has realized some few deficiencies in the system. We do get some false alarms from time to time, so we feel some of the wiring has been compromised. There are a couple of pull stations in the facility that do not work, and so it's in the wiring somewhere. And then also, having been in there for so long, there's several code issues that needs to be brought up to code. Namely, probably the most important one is ADA, now with all the requirements, with new requirements code-wise with ADA. So with that, staff put together a bid spec package, and I sent over to the fire marshal to have them take a look at it. They reviewed the bid and approved it. So we put it out to bid, and we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting at the community center where we had two bids or two vendors show up for that. And then we received bids from both of those vendors, Mesa Low Voltage in the amount of $46,300 and Pro Electric in the amount of $198,000. Mesa Low Voltage has done a lot of work in the city of Leavenworth. I did confer with our both Sean Kell and Mark D. Moranville, our fire inspectors, and they've worked a lot with Mr. Mesa. He is a cell phone businessman, which is I think one of the main reasons why that is so much lower than the other one. The other one is so much higher. It's a bigger company. Mr. Mays has done a lot of work in all the schools, most of the schools here in the city of Leavenworth, Lansing, as well as on post. So with that, we feel very comfortable with this bid. There's $40,000 in the CIP for this. It came in a little higher than that, which is not to be unexpected after I really dug into the nuts and bolts of writing the specs on this. If you could imagine all the nooks and crannies in the community center, making sure that everything met code. So with that, staff does recommend the bid from Mesa Low Voltage in the amount of $46,300. There's $40,000 in the CIP, and the remaining $6,300 would come out of the line item from the 2019 Riverfront Community Center Building Improvements budget. So with that, I'll entertain.
And I'll just add, we did go ahead and call Pro Electric or reach out to them just to see again. I mean, it's such a huge difference. So they're more of a general contractor. There's a lot of more maybe work that they sub out, a lot different rates that they pay. And then again, as Steve mentioned, I want to reiterate, we checked, they work with the school district. We've worked with them a lot. Our fire marshal and our fire inspectors are very comfortable with the company and the product and the process. So we believe 198,000 truly is an outlier, and that 46,300 represents a very good project, and we're happy with who was the low bidder.
Assuming we approve the staff's recommendation, when would this work be done?
As soon as all the contracts are in place, at that point, the vendor will be able to start ordering all the materials. And then, of course, the existing fire protection system will stay in place, obviously, as this is being put in. So we will have fire coverage throughout its entirety.
So do we think sometime like in the summer, or, I mean, we're I'm not trying to, nail you down or anything, I was just trying to.
I think we had a completion timeframe of 90 days in the contract, and he feels he can have it done within that fairly easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the awarding of the contract for fire alarm upgrades at the Riverfront Community Center to Mesa Low Voltage in an amount not to exceed $46,300 to be funded from CIP and RFCC operating budget.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Ballard.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, consider contract for Stubby Park Monument Sign.
Mr. Grant will continue with this item.
Mayor Commissioners, this is the sign we reviewed last week at the study session. The consensus by the commission was to move forward with the sign at the Stubby Park location. These are the concrete numbers involved with that. The sign with the contract with Odegaard Sign Company, sorry. For construction and installation, the sign will be in the amount of $72,855. Westar Electric getting hooked up to the power and transformer, and $49,0971. We will be boring under 4th Street that I indicated to you. The low bid on that is $3,400. And then also we will have an electrician hired to set the meter, set the pedestal, set the breaker, get it ready for the sign company when they come in. And the sign company will actually hook up to that electric, but it takes an electrician to get all that hooked up. So those are the concrete numbers for this project in the amount of $82,143.27. And staff recommends approving the purchase and installation of the monument sign by Odegaard Sign Company with all of the utilities included in the amount of $82,143.27. There is $87,100 budgeted for this project, and I'll remind you that half of that is being paid out of CIP and half is being paid from CBB money.
Transient guest tax.
Transient guest tax, correct.
Once again, assuming that we approve the staff's recommendation, what are we looking at in terms of a time completion for the project?
We talked about this briefly last week, and we have the storm sewer project that's going to be taking place through the middle of, right through the middle of Stubby Park. I met with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Hooper. We talked about this a little bit, and it will need to coincide with that.
Sure.
So approval of this tonight will give us time to get all the permits in place. It's going to take permits going under 4th Street, but that project, still needs to be bid out. So it's probably mid to late summer.
Okay.
I'll be coordinating with that.
Roger that.
No other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the contract for Stubby Park monument sign with a cost not to exceed $82,143.27. Excuse me.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Chief, consider bids for first net equipment for Police Department.
Chief Kitchens. Mr. Mayor, Commission, the Police Department is before the governing body this evening asking for your approval to purchase equipment from BOK Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $39,738.24. This equipment purchase is specific to the FirstNet program. The FirstNet program is designed to allow public safety elements in the city of Leavenworth, police and fire, to have priority in cell phone usage and data movement in the event of some sort of catastrophic event. The FirstNet program, what we will purchase is the equipment that will be installed in the 24 black and white police cars in the fleet. The FirstNet program is specific to AT&T. There are very few companies that have the equipment available. We work with 2 companies that were able to actually demonstrate on site that it worked. We were insistent that we see it work properly, and that was from ROK Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $39,738.24, and Raycom Critical Communications provided a bid of $53,907.52. Funds were allocated in the CIP budget in the amount of $44,000 for the acquisition of the FirstNet equipment for the police cars. So again, I would be asking for your approval of the bid of $39,738.24 from ROK Brothers Incorporated for the acquisition of equipment to be installed in the police cars. That allows for our participation in the FirstNet program, and this would be the final purchase to get us completely functioning in the FirstNet program.
And assuming our approval, timeframe are you talking about as far as when would the installation occur?
So we will order the equipment, and then the police department and IT staff would set about the business of installing it in the cars, and so that is time dependent. It'll probably take a full 60 days, I bet, 24 cars. It's complex to put it in, so it takes a little while.
So it'll be this year though, right?
Yes, sir. Okay.
No other comments? I entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we award the contract for the purchase of the MDTs to Rock Brothers Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $39,738.24.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. We give vote to Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Motion carried, 4-0. Next item on the agenda. Thanks, Chief. Oh, yeah, we can take
Do at least
5 minutes, yeah. Good call.
I'm good.
staff have known about for a long time. Simply did not have the funding stream available to fix these. So this would be stormwater project number 1. And I'll turn it over to Mike McDonald and Mike Cooper from the Public Works Department to go through this project.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, we have a series of PowerPoint slides here that kind of works through the 6 locations that make up stormwater project number 1. They're identified in the policy report, and then we've distributed also a handy handout. If you have that need to look at that or need the full presentation, we can certainly provide that. But these are projects that we have identified to the commission earlier. The plans were prepared by city staff with over the course of the fall and the winter to do some projects our own self for once in a while. And these are projects that have existed in people's backyards for some time, or front yards or side yards. And they're on 20th Street Terrace, 1200 block of Cherokee Street, 509 South 17th Street, 900 block of Clemp, 1000 block at 17th Street Terrace, and at 5th and Elm, there's a stone arch under the street that we're fixing some minor things. At some point, I guess it's the next project, there was some interesting things to look at too. But we'll talk about these. We're excited to get these projects designed and out to bid. We did get 3 bidders respond with legitimate bids. The lowest bid was from a firm we've worked with before, which is Blue Nile Contracting. They did a big storm sewer project for us down at 16th and Holman here 2 or 3 years ago, and they did a very nice job on that. These projects, we expect them to hopefully start working within 2 to 3 weeks. And I think it's about a 60-day, is it 60 or 90? 60 days to finish the entire group of 6. We have another list of projects that we shared with the commission, kind of south part of town, that we are not going to be able to use city forces at this point to design, but we will work to get those out once we see how our other larger projects shake out for funding. There's some interesting pieces of infrastructure in this, and we're excited to repair them. Some of these are, like we said, a long time coming. Mike, you have any thoughts on any of this?
Now, again, it's projects that's been out there. They've kind of dealt with homeowners and stuff on them, and we're glad to be able to have some way to start working on them.
Sure the homeowners are too, right?
Yes, they are.
We have talked to all of the adjoining property owners. We have easements or right of entry from all of the property owners, so they know we're coming on these projects. And we would recommend that you approve the low bid presented by Blue Nile Construction in the amount of $153,335.
And assuming that we approve staff's recommendation, we're talking like 90 to 120 days, or?
Typically, it takes about 2 weeks to get the contracts back signed and reviewed and approved, and typically they will want to start about 2 weeks after that. I haven't heard anything different from them, but the contract is a 60 from when they start, they're to be completed within 60 calendar days of the start of the project.
That answers my question, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll move that we award the contract, approve the awarding of the contract for project number 1, stormwater management program to Blue Nile Contractors in an amount not to exceed $153,335.
Second. Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, change order number 1 to contract 2018-69, Lena Weaver, 16th Terrace and Thornton Phase 1 Detention Project.
Again, Mike McDonald and Mike Cooper handle this item.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is a large stormwater project approved by the commission, been on the thought process for many years. Project is probably 75–80% complete at this point, and there are two items that we need to bring to the commission for review and request approval as part of a change order. They're not related to each other, but they need to be addressed. We thought we'd just address them together. There's two parts. One is additional riprap in the detention basin itself, in the picture, and also in the handout in the upper left-hand corner. Where during the course of construction of the project, the water that entered the detention basin was not following the expected pathway that had been identified because it was full of trees and brush and you couldn't get anywhere to figure it out. And ultimately, we found that we needed additional riprap, so we deleted some soil stabilization mat and such and added the riprap to protect from erosion. There's a picture, going to the next one, there we go, there's the picture, you kind of see the riprap where the equipment's working to get water from the creek down into the basin. And the second part is the pipeline that goes between the two houses that we're been concerned with for some time. When the plans were prepared and put out for bid, that pipe was intact enough that we were comfortable you could drive equipment across to work on it. Now, when they're getting ready to do that, we find that in fact, the bottom is now gone. The pipe is distorted, and it has a new resident. If you look in the center picture, you'll see that is about, what, 6 foot bull snake hanging out in the... So that was pretty exciting. Their arms are just big. Regardless, our recommendation is that pipe needs to be replaced, or we really can't complete the project. We looked at trying to come up with a different size pipe or a different type of pipe material, but the nature of the existing inlets are you have to go back with the same size pipe, otherwise you're building new inlets at $10,000 to $12,000 a piece. So our recommendation is to replace that with new and improved corrugated metal pipe. It's the only pipe that's available in these sizes, except this is aluminized, and we do have somewhat of a decent track record without the rust and failure. And we're recommending that the city commission approve that is a change order of $28,875 to do that change. And that is basically remove the old pipe, put the new pipe in, and then continue with the project.
There's no comments? Any questions?
I have a question. I know that the rain probably has affected the work out there on this project, right?
Yes. Yes, it's delayed it considerably even from last year.
It's happening between Thornton and 16th Street Terrace. I mean, that big, what do we call that? That swale, or what is it?
It's a series of creeks that come down
right
into this detention basin that was basically it was a hole. It was not designed as a detention basin.
Right.
So the city acquired property from the tax sale and some other resources, and we're able to build this basin, essentially protect the 2 or 3 houses in the neighborhood that have a pattern of flooding and high rainfall events. There's a second part to this project that is a construction of a berm and some other pipe that goes south of our project. The project is our project kind of stops right in here, or just south into here.
Mm-hmm.
But to extend those repairs down for 2 or 3 more houses. It's an ongoing thing. We have a design underway to extend improvements all the way down to Viola Street where it ties into the system. That's in pretty good shape. And by improvements, I'm not talking about we're just going to put another big pipe in there. We're looking at the alternatives, most likely recommendation of a wider open channel system to mimic natural things so we don't keep running into 100-year storm happens twice a year now.
Right.
You want a stream that operates as best a stream can under man-made conditions. But this project is to protect kind of the homes at that cul-de-sac. They have a history of being flooded and very, very high intensity rainfall events we see in kind of May, June, and July, although I think every month
now
seems to have them anymore.
So
when do we project this particular project that we've been talking about will be done? Or is it, I mean, just generally, I mean, I don't.
60 days.
60 days.
If it quits raining.
Right, okay, well, that's fair. Roger.
Right, that's the key thing. They've got to, basically, they're kind of done with the pond part. They got to get it shaped up and some seeds and the shrubberies planted. Now they got to work in between the houses, and that's slow going. That's sensitive work.
Are you getting any feedback, good or bad, from the residents in
They
that
would
area?
like it to be over with.
Yeah.
They understand the problem we're up against. but
Okay.
They've been very patient. And I would agree, I would like it to be over
Sure.
with too.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the change order number 1 with Lineweaver Construction for the 16th and Terrace and Thornton Phase 1 Detention Project in an amount not to exceed $49,691.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. Next item on the agenda, consent agenda. Commissioner.
Yes. After a review of the claims, I move to approve the claims for April 20, 2019 through May 10, 2019 in the amount of $833.35. Net amount for payroll number 9, effective April 26, 2019, in the amount of $332,904.23. This includes a police and fire pension in the amount of $11,572.36, and net amount for payroll effective May 10, 2019, in the amount of $318,637.52. No fire and pension, no police and fire pension.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-0. There's any comments among the commissioners?
I just have a quick one. Today, I was invited by Becky Scanlon, the manager out at Hillcrest Manor Apartments, and went for their ribbon cutting today. It's really beautiful to see how, the people love it. They
Yeah,
love
that's
the
good.
renovations of it, and Matt Folsom with Folsom Housing Development managed to get all of the options together to be able to develop this property, and it really is nice for our elderly and low-income people in our community, so
Thank you.
just a shout out to them.
Yeah. Commissioner Griswold?
No, I just say that since we, our agenda item really was the big first one, the dangerous structures on the demolition list, created some constituents calling me. I'm not going to get into, but they recommended 2 or 3 properties that they thought that should be on this list. But I'm going to just recommend for a code enforcement check on the 2 or 3 properties that I heard from constituents, and I'll provide that information to the city manager. Check it out.
Absolutely. City manager, can you give us an update about the river?
Going down.
That's good.
I'm not believing that we're done for the year yet, but
Okay.
it's like 17 feet or something. And flood stage is at 20, and it's down to 17. It was up to 22, I think, here a few days ago.
Good, that's good.
And I'll let the commission know Thursday is when we have our first group scheduled for the 3 Mile Creek cleanup program.
That's good.
So I almost hesitated to mention it because I can't remember the group. Charity just reminded me this afternoon, but they're gonna work on Thursday
Wonderful.
on that project. And I think our Parks Department is gonna start Thursday with the Bobcat trying to clean up Landing Park. Trying to get some of that stuff out of there. They've been hung up with a lot of mowing, but I think they're gonna try to get some work started on Thursday.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, at this time, motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Begin voting with Commissioner Barrett.
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.